Welcome to Presente, a space and community that vibes on being in the moment, something we are relearning how to do in a fast-moving world.
We are excited to be part of a growing movement that talks about topics that we feel haven't been talked about in our Latin culture and womanhood.
Be present with us. Take a pause and break down societal norms.
Redefine the meaning of existing. Welcome to Presente, the podcast.
Hello, mi gente, and welcome to Presente. I am your co-host, Jennifer Nuñez. Originally from the Dominican Republic and raised in New York City, I am thrilled to share this platform with my co-host and friend, Jissela Murillo, and embark on this new journey that we will be sharing with you all. Some fun facts about me: I am a true Cancerian. My favorite number is 8. I love anything with hearts, singing and R&B music, the summertime, candles and holiday lights, the sound of the ocean, sports, a full moon and sunsets, and my family. I am very passionate about entrepreneurship and believe that we are all special in our own ways. We must never lose sight of that. If I can be a public speaker, I would. So here we go.
Hello, y'all, and welcome to Presente. I'm your co-host, Jissela Murillo. I'm a born and bred New Yorker. My origin is Brooklyn. I'm a 90s baby, but currently in Philadelphia. I'm a proud daughter of immigrants from Honduras and Peru. I'm a first-generation Latin American. Some fun facts about me is that I'm an Aquarius sun, a Pisces moon, and a Scorpio rising. I love astrology and the celestial realms. I'm also a digital content creator that supports businesses to reach to meet their design goals. I'm excited for the new journey ahead and to be more presente.
How we met. Hello, and welcome to our first episode of Presente. For our first episode, we would like to go back down memory lane and pretty much speak on the beginning, how it all started, why the name Presente, the podcast, the Latinx name, and our appreciation for Hispanic Heritage Month. Jissela and I met during college at NYIT, New York Institute of Technology, where we were both studying for our master's, I believe. I was in the field of communications with very much anticipation of going back to school to be a reporter. I actually wanted to primarily focus on being a sports reporter, given my love for sports, knowing that not many Hispanic women were reporting games unless it was on a Spanish like network. I went back to college specifically to try to make that dream come true and ended up just weaving my way through different programs and different curriculums, learning how to work in the field of broadcast. Pretty nice. Jissela and I met there where we worked on a few projects. We have been in touch ever since. And here we are with our very first podcast.
This is very exciting. So, hello, everybody. Again, my name is Jissela, and like Jennifer said, we just took a trip down memory lane where we met each other during our master's program at NYIT. It was a great program because it really helped us with our skills in communication as well as technology and how to use equipment for the field. I remember like my entrance to NYIT for the first 4 years. I was a high school student who really didn't know what path I wanted to take after high school. And, everybody's or every family's dream is like, hey, my kid's going to college after this. But while everybody like in my group of friends knew what they wanted to do, I was definitely not that person. But I knew that I loved design and art, and I loved to video edit. So it's funny because going into NYIT, I definitely did not pick that as a first career choice. I actually chose architecture. Man, I respect all architects because it's not an easy field. I remember I experienced some very high anxiety trying to be in that field, but it is a cool field. It's just, it wasn't for me. So I knew it wasn't design. Then I learned about communication arts through an alumni who was further along in the communication arts field. And then from there, she was explaining how it's film and production and editing. So hint, hint, I got excited to learn more about how to video edit in the field. And I think that sparked interest into many other different types of art in my journey. As a Latina, I was very determined to change the narrative in the family. I wanted to be a part of something that could give back and to break the system. Back then, I remember my mother kind of explaining to me like, hey, we want you to go to college so you could be something. And I know that came from past generations of them trying to break their own cycle. So very grateful for this podcast and to be doing it with Jennifer, because I feel like this is a space where we can truly, give back and talk on things that haven't been talked about.
For sure. I think the fact that here we are speaking on our experience out of high school into college, many can relate. And we're now in this era where it's still questionable. It's a very gray area, whereas us growing up, I am a few years slightly older than you, but us growing up, it was instilled in us like, hey, go to college, make a career, make sure you get benefits and be the first of your generation. And that pressure was real. I'm the oldest of three. That pressure of going to college was no ultimatum. I also didn't know what areas I wanted to study at or what to do with myself. I got out of high school and did my associates in liberal arts just to be more generic. I then went to school for business administration and management, where I got my bachelor's degree at a whole other college. I did my thing there because I love business. I love being interactive and hearing about people's ideas and creations and being innovative in that sense. I felt I can put the fact that I was working in the banking field hand in hand with what I was going through with in school. Learning business management was one of my favorite topics. And that's when I knew like, okay, I'm onto something. I definitely like the business sector of things. And I also enjoy presenting in front of others when we were being in class and had projects. I was all for it. Like, put me up there. But I also knew I didn't want to be a teacher. So that was another thing people try to impose on me over the years. Hey, you should be a teacher. And it was just like, no, I like it, but no, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to have to be like checking homework and, going through grades and stuff. Like, no. And then finally, after taking some time off, after I finished my bachelor's degree, and there was NYIT, and they had this really awesome master's program in communication arts. I pretty much just, while working in banking, I decided to resign so that I can pursue and have more free time in being more involved in the community and volunteer work. I was overextending myself at this point with between work and going to school and trying to have a life. So at NYT, I enrolled. I loved it. I got to be hands-on with film and production, editing, presenting, and that was one of my favorite classes, which was media presentations, in which, for starters, I remember opening that class with informing my professor and the students that growing up, I was always told to be quiet, that I talk too much. And that was something that my mom had to hear at every parent-teacher conference. And she would look at me and give me that look like, oh, you just talk too much. You talk too much, as if it were a bad thing. And I really did a whole presentation on that in school, because while in the Latin community, it's kind of like, hey, only talk when spoken to, or, respect your adults and things of that nature. Once you things into perspective, I realized, like, you know what? I really want to get into the public speaking field. And, this podcast, I think, is a great idea to do so. It's taken me some time. I know Jissela has been telling me this for years after college, like, hey, we should do a podcast. We should like link up and do a podcast. And I've heard it from others, but it's something that I think I was overthinking. I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm more accepting to that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. So I'm glad to be sharing this platform with you, Jissela. Thank you for, your friendship, for wanting to do this for a very long time. And now we're actually finally here doing the damn thing.
It's a journey, guys, honestly, to get to, where you see yourself, because of what Jennifer was saying before. Fear really is, it's one of those things like everybody goes through, but there's a great quote by Elizabeth Gilbert that says, sometimes you just have to sit with fear and just put it in the driver's seat next to you. So definitely, I've been telling Jennifer to do this for ages because I think she's really got the talent for it. You're great at public speaking. I could follow you very easily when you're speaking. So I'm really excited for this and for both of us to be here right now.
I thank you for giving me like that insight, opening my eyes to know like you can do this. So what if you're fearful? I think we all have some sense of fear or insecurity, or just plain old excuses, But hey, we never know unless we give it a shot. So I'm very, very thankful for that and super excited to where this journey is going to take us. Cool thing about our backgrounds is communications is such a broad field, and yet here we are, like, you're the expert when it comes to like production and graphics and video editing. I don't know precisely, like if I will ever be a reporter because I wasn't raised in that field of like going to a big well-known name school or even being a part of like recreational activities. We'll get into that further along throughout the other episodes to come, but I felt like it was a big challenge, especially wanting to be a female Latina sports reporter. Felt like the odds were kind of stacked against me, especially it being such a male dominant area, like in any sport. It really didn't matter. And I also wanted to be a sports reporter towards something I knew, like not just any sport. I watch soccer, but I don't know too much about it. Players, the coaches, the history, I don't know. So, sometimes you think like, okay, well, if you're going to be a Latina sports reporter, well, hey, you should do soccer. And it's like, oh no, give me a second here. Give me a moment. I like basketball and football and baseball and a little bit of soccer. So it just felt like the odds were really stacked against me. But I tried. I really did. I tried in many different ways, through volunteer work, having my own sports website, using the gram to kind of like talk about stories that were happening at the time. I tried it. Now I'm more on the general aspect. So we'll see. Why Presente? Further along into our first episode, Why Presente, the podcast, that name came upon an actual song. And I won't go into the details of the song. It's something that really resonated because it's Spanish. We knew we wanted to cater to our roots and kind of have that as a representation. For those who don't know, presente means being present. I thought it was a really good choice. Jissela acknowledged it, and here we are. We agreed on it. Presente speaks to being present. And we hope to further speak on this.
So I really like the title because I feel like during the pandemic, we were kind of forced to slow down. I remember before the pandemic shutdown happened, I remember feeling really overworked, overtired. And I was just like, I feel like I need to click the pause button. So when everything was happening, I was like, or when we were on lockdown, I feel like I really got to understand what being present more in my life meant, like with my family members. When things were slowly starting to open back up, I still wanted to remain present, or presente. And I think that's important because, you know, our past generations or our family's generations, they rarely got moments to be still. So I feel like this is something we can do more of, or we can speak on more of, for our community, is how to be more presente in a fast moving world.
Absolutely. The pandemic definitely was a game changer for us, for the whole world. It really put things into perspective where here we are caught up and overextending ourselves on a day-to-day basis, being drilled to work, go home, rest, go back to work. That whole routine, like so robust, was just exhausting in every way, physically, mentally, socially, like in every way. But the pandemic really allowed us to slow down, and as awful and tragic what we went through a the whole world, it did put things into perspective to, not to take things for granted, to take care of yourself, your loved ones. Many times it's as if we don't give enough time and appreciation for even the simpler things. So being present is something that I think was valuable lesson during the pandemic, and it should still continue to be implemented on the regular, on the daily, because we matter, those we surround ourselves and love, and our friends and family. Now it's one of those things where you can literally just not, how can I say, you can literally like be more understanding and not be so upset, like, oh my God, I texted this person and they didn't respond. It's like, well, wait a second, just hold on a minute, give them some time. They're probably just being present in their moment, or going through something. So just that sense of like slowing down, more mindfulness, being still is definitely necessary. Totally.
There's this really great trend going on Instagram where this guy has a song that he plays on the guitar, and then the reels that people are creating are called the art of noticing. So whoever started the reel, thank you for that, because it's pretty much like little clips of what when we are present, we see as little, like I like to call them as bits of magic. So like the sunset, or looking up at the moon, the way the light hits certain objects in your house, creating these beautiful like shades of light. I'm really glad for whoever started that trend on Instagram. Thank you, because it makes you see the little bits of magic, we don't see when we're in the rush of things. Being reflective on our day, being mindful of how, our days went, even on bad days, they allow us to be present. And also, resting and speaking kindly to yourself. All of these things matter, and this is what we're here for. This is what the space is for.
I love that. It's once again like back to the simpler things, that just makes all the difference. Being that we're in a vibrational, world, and all about the vibes and positive energies that we share, it's also within ourselves. It's those things that can actually help alleviate a lot, whether you're overwhelmed, stressed, exhausted, your body aches mentally, you're just drained, whatever it is. When you reflect back on the simpler things and just have that moment of quietness, of gratitude, self-reflection, it really helps ease a lot of whatever it is that you may be, battling, or someone else that you see, like, okay, this is a moment to just pause. What are some ways that we could be more present? Is definitely mindfulness, taking a moment to breathe, tune back into yourself and know, like, hey, this too shall pass. Not getting overworked, because it happens. It happens in every way. You're stuck in traffic, or you have a deadline to meet. You have loads of work piling up at your office, whatever it is. Like, it happens. It's human, it's natural. We're just here to kind of be that little reminder when things are just a little tad bit too much. Check in with yourself. Check in with yourself, check in with your surroundings. Go back to the simpler things. If you have to put your phone back down on do not disturb, silent mode is very helpful. Go ahead and do so, because this too shall pass. This is just, it shouldn't get dragged out. It should just be a reminder to, settle in, settle down. And one thing too, I would say about being present is that it's okay to speak up. It's okay to kind of like, not have to always go through things in your head or by yourself. It's okay to turn to a friend or a therapist, whatever it is, because that's still a form of being present and acknowledging what you're feeling or what you're going through. It doesn't have to just be, hey, you can't talk about it. Talking is good.
Talking and expressing yourself is always valid. We go through so much throughout the day. It's great to kind of just like yell it out sometimes, speak it out, whatever it is you need to do to release, do it. Even journal dumping is really good, writing in your journal.
Exercising.
Yeah, all these things. We will by the way, discuss more of these things deeper later. In a sense, this is the gist of our podcast. This is what we wanted to go for. The goal is to invite you more to be presente.
We hope you will all join us while we navigate through this new chapter.
The Latinx Name.
So given that this is our first episode, and we are inviting you into the podcast of Presente and what we stand for, and what we wish to elaborate more on as we go through our conversations, is the Latinx name. And what I mean by that is the names of Latinas. For instance, my name is Jennifer Nuñez, my co-host Jissela Murillo. We decided to kick it off with the Latinx name because it is the origin of our roots. It's, we're Hispanics. We come from Spanish countries. I'm from the Dominican Republic. Gisela's from Honduras and Peru. At least her parents are. And one thing is, like, growing up, I don't know about you, Gisela, but growing up for me, oftentimes, my last name was pronounced incorrectly. I was called, Nuñez, and I was always correcting, the teachers or whoever it would be. It's a little offensive. I feel like sometimes it's something where people just let it roll off, or have to accept the fact that, that our name is being mispronounced or changed. I am not okay with that. I am not okay with that. I feel like get it right, get it together. And that's something that over the years growing up, I've had to kind of put my foot down when someone addresses me. Not in a bad way, but just, lightly, let them know, like, hey, it's actually Jennifer Nuñez.
Yeah.
Well, that's just my take on it. I see it happen all the time in broadcast and on a smaller scale. So
Definitely.
I don't know. What do you think?
I agree with you, because when I was growing up and going to school, a lot of teachers always pronounced my name wrong. Gisela turned into Jessica, and I was always like, there's an L there. How are you getting the K part? Like, it's Jissela. But there were some teachers, that did pronounce it right because they saw the spelling. But yeah, I would also very politely be like, it's actually Jissela. But I guess my last name is familiar. The last name Murillo is also used, I guess, in the Italian speaking world or Italian side of things. So my last name would always be pronounced right. And people would always assume, or like, hey, are you Italian? Be like, no, I'm Hispanic. And I would say that because, I'm proud of first of all, I'm proud of my parents, because they work so hard. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna represent who I am. So definitely I agree with you on telling people, in a respectful and polite way, like, hey, this is our name. What's in a name? That's our name. Well, my mother, when she came from Honduras to New York, she had to change her name because her real name is Itzmenya. Mom, I love you. I'm sorry if I gave that away. But she would change her name to Carolina or Carol. And for years, I assumed my mother's name was Carol or Carolina because it wasn't until I was a little older that my mom's like, my real name is actually Itzmenya. And my mother always talked about not liking her name that my grandmother gave her because she felt like it wasn't easy to say, or had a weird spelling. And then when she came to America, she didn't want people to know, I guess, she was Hispanic, or to kind of hide her heritage because of the things we face, like racism. So that's why her name was changed. And I believe, it was like that for most people that come over here.
You're absolutely right. A lot of people of Hispanic descent and other cultures have to or feel the need to change or alter their name. It's one thing not liking your name, but it's another thing to feel like the pressure from the external world or the society we live in, because it's this, there's no acceptance, there's no acceptance, or it just goes over their head like, oh, it's not important. And I think that's wrong. It didn't matter, when I was working in my banking days, it didn't matter what client I had in front of me. I would pronounce their full name, first and last names, to the best of my ability. And many times people would be like shocked about it because it's like, wow, you got it right. And I think that that's a plus given to the fact that I am bilingual.
Yeah.
Knowing how to just, play around with words and letters and how they, fall. Many times clients would just be like, hey, oh my God, you got that right. And, you're the first to get it. And I would just be like, awesome, as it should be. And if you don't understand how or know how to pronounce someone's name, you kind of, you ask them like, hey, how do you pronounce it? Or, but the sense of like, oh, let me just call it whatever because it doesn't matter. I don't think that's kind. It's kind of like, bashing a person in a way. Your name matters, especially when you're acknowledging someone. Your mom is one person that you can easily relate to, and there's like so many others have gone through and are going through the same thing, just because it's like, oh, it's not quote unquote American enough. And that's messed up. It really is. That was then. I know now we live in a country where the vast majority is Latinos. So I hope that that narrative can change when it comes to the name. But even then, there's people who are still, changing their name, dropping their last name, or altering it, whatever it is, it's not cool. Stick to your name.
Most definitely. Your names are all unique and beautiful. Definitely keep on your names. I love how you mentioned, being respectful or asking people like, hey, how do you pronounce your name? Definitely is something I do a lot at my job, working as a teacher. I always tell students before I even take attendance, I'm like, listen, guys, if I say your name wrong, I apologize. I'm sorry, but if I say it wrong, don't be afraid to correct me. Like, tell me. I want to know how to pronounce your name correctly, because, students' voices also matter. And to keep them in a safe environment, I always like to express my, like, hey, a boundary. If I crossed it, let me know. I want to say your name right. And I know that it takes place a lot, with the Asian communities as well. They'll have their names written down, in their language, or as they would say it in, their Asian specific language. And they would be like, oh, miss, it's actually pronounced, XYZ. And I'm like, okay, thank you, because I will, if you feel like you want me to say it this way, I will be respectful and say it like that. You're a person, you're a human being, you exist. I want you to know that your name matters to me. I will say it correctly. And it's same thing happens within the Latin community as well. Thankfully, being bilingual, I am able to say their names correctly. And then the kids get surprised. They're like, Miss, you speak Spanish? I'm like, yes, I speak Spanish.
That's right. You pull out that card, like, hello, I'm bilingual.
Surprise.
It's just a beautiful thing. Our culture is beautiful. Our names are beautiful. They should be honored. They should be respected. And when in doubt, that's why we are able, by the grace of God, we can talk, and communicate. And, you can ask politely. That's all there is to it. That's all we kind of like, hope that it clicks and it registers with those who may not know, okay, how do you say this name? First or last, it doesn't matter. But, just that sense of acknowledgement, it goes a long way. It can really change the dynamic on a person's mood, feeling, or, what they think about their name. All in all, I don't think that we should shrink ourselves for the comfort of others. And when it comes to our names,
I like that.
It is who we are. If it's one thing if you don't like it and you want to be known by someone else, I get that. Much respect to that too. But when it's just because you feel compelled, like, hey, it's not being accepted or acknowledged, it's that's when you really have the upper hand here, where you can just put it in plain sight. This is my name, this is who I am, this is where I'm from. It really starts with us and changing that so that people can really understand it and accept it. That's all. So my name is Jennifer Nuñez. I do not have a middle name. Many people find that a little bit alarming, like, oh my God, why don't you have a middle name? I wasn't given one. Plain and simple, I was not given one. That's all there is, Jennifer Nuñez, and that is with an accent over the N, the second N. But I was born in the Dominican Republic, and my name was given to me by not just my parents agreeing to it, but I do have an older sister on my dad's side, and she was living at the time in the US, and my grandmother was living in the Dominican Republic. And it just so happened to be, despite the distance and many miles apart, that was the one name that my parents got from family members just living in two different places. So my grandmother and my older sister presented the name Jennifer, and my parents agreed on it. So that's my name.
Yeah, I can relate to that story. Well, the name Jissela actually came about from my aunt. My aunt was telling my mother, like, she's like, you should name her Jissela, but change the name of the spelling. So instead of being with a typical G, my mother changed it to a J. So Jissela in Spanish. When I was young, I was not so appreciative of my name, only because you know how people make those like bracelets and stuff, necklaces with like the names on them? Yeah, I never was able to find my name. So I was like, I can't get a necklace that says Jissela or a little bracelet that says that, because it wasn't common. It's not a common name. So, but then as I got older, I'm like, I like my name. I'm very glad that my mom, went for that. And I actually do have a middle name too. My middle name is Maria, like my grandmother. My mom just wanted to give it to me because she wanted to incorporate my grandmother's name somewhere, so she gave it to me as a middle name.
Well, I love your name, Jissela. You're the only Jissela that I know. I think it suits you. I'm sorry that you couldn't find your name growing up on tags or nameplates. I did not experience that because, as you know, Jennifer is like super duper common. There would be so many times that I would be in a school and in a class, and there would be like 5 Jennifers. And it's like, which one? Which one? To the point, I have a quick funny story, to the point that I was taking my SATs back when I was in high school. And I don't know if they still do it this way, but I had to report to a different school to take my SATs. So it
I had
wasn't,
that too.
yeah. So it wasn't even like the school I attended. It was like on a weekend, one day, you got to report to the school and sign in so that you can take your exam. I believe it was the SATs, or was it the Regents? I believe it was the SATs. Yeah. And here we are I'm in an unknown school with people that I don't know, other students. And there's a proctor in the class, and she's taking the attendance, and she goes, Jennifer Nuñez. And me and someone else. There was another Jennifer Nuñez in the class. We were
Wow.
both like here. And mind you, I've never met anyone with my name. So we were both like here. The proctor looks up and she, she was like, okay, I'm going to say it again. She says the name again. And we're like, here. And then she looks at the other girl. She goes, this is not the time to joke around.
Oh,
Like, and the girl's like, that's my name. And the proctor was like, wait a second. And I guess she looked at both of our IDs and was like, oh, wow, it was literally me and another girl ready to take the SATs with the same name. But I was older because I believe her birthday was in December. I was born in July. So I was just like, all right, well, I came first. So she was addressing me first. But yeah, that was probably the first time I ever met someone with my name. So that was pretty interesting. Yep.
that's crazy. Yeah.
So
And then,
like,
oh no, go ahead. Finish.
I'm saying Jennifer's like super common. So, and I do spell it with 2 N's, 1 F for those who are wondering, because I get asked that question a million times and I don't know why. Given that it's such a common, popular name, I don't know why people ask it, but that's my name.
Hispanic Heritage Month.
So if you have been listening to our podcast, Presente, thank you so much for making it this far into our first episode. We really appreciate you sticking by us while we pretty much just give you some insight into what we're all about and our journey through this. Fun fact is that we are recording this during Hispanic Heritage Month, while it is still fresh in our minds, even though I know we're launching now in November. We just wanted to really chime in as well, talk about our roots, pay our respects, and show our appreciation for our Latinos out there. So salute to you all. Thank you very much for tuning in to Presente.
Would like to give a shout out to another Latina who I really love, respect. Shout out to Shakira, Shakira, because she went through a lot recently with her divorce from Pique. It's hard to come back from from that. But I feel like Shakira really is like a phoenix rising from the ashes. She is a super creative soul. I really love like her music and her unique talents presented in her videos. So shout out to Shakira for, you know, being the phoenix, for also giving that positive support to other women. I really like that about her. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month to her. I almost called you J-Lo.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like
that's another one. Shout out to J-Lo.
J-Lo. Hey. But yeah, no, and also happy Hispanic Heritage Month to all the Latin communities that are out there. Your presence on this planet really makes a difference. Continue to do what you're doing. Keep having that faith, that bravery to keep going every single day. And, you know, don't forget to be more presente in your life. I know we go through a lot. You are very hard workers. We're very hard workers. Shout out to us. Hey.
Woohoo. I love it. I love my peoples. Thank you for your involvement in the communities, for being creatives, and just bringing that flavor, you know, that flavor and good energy and positive vibes. Hispanic Heritage Month is almost coming to an end, but we definitely didn't want to miss the mark without showing our love and appreciation for our community. So thank you for supporting us, for tuning in, and we hope we can continue this relationship as we build it along the way with you all. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Presente. We hope to see you guys here every Tuesday. Thank you for being Presente.